has 40 plus years experience. Uh-oh, sorry. My screen went off. Okay. Dave Schedin has 40 plus years experience in the automotive field. He has extensive General Motors University automotive and business management training and is a graduate of the Arizona Automotive Institute. Dave began his career as a young lad in the independent shop in 1979 and began working as an apprentice tech, advancing to a master level drivability tech. In 86, he moved into the dealership arena as a lead drivability tech and obtained both the Chevrolet and the ASC master technician status and became a shop foreman overseeing 24 techs. Assistant service manager to fixed operations manager. In 1997, Dave started and managed Dave's Auto Repair in the Pacific Northwest, where he took that business to a near $1 million sales level in under 4 years by implementing and continuing to developing the CompuTrack automotive management systems. Since 2006, Dave has been coaching and training to help shop owners achieve on an average $2 million in new gross profit dollars in 12 months. I might have read that wrong.
200,000.
Excuse me. It's like, is that 200,000 or 2 million?
I definitely could help you do that.
Yeah, right. Dave has been a featured trainer and speaker of ATE Northwest, over 50 ASA and ASCCA chapter meetings, continued featured articles in Ratchet and Wrench, Aftermarket Matters, and Remarkable Results Radio Automotive podcasts. Dave and his wife, Bonnie Schedin, also carry extensive leadership and personal self-development coaching and training at the advanced level. Through both personalized and highly effective team training and seminars, they offer well-rounded coaching for the automotive professional through experiential seminars. Thank you, Dave. I hope I didn't mess that up too bad.
Thank you, Pamela. And I'm still looking for that shop where we can have, $2 million in 12 months. So anybody want to sign up for that? That'd be awesome. So I'm going to share my screen here. And let me know when you can see my screen. It's up there. Awesome.
We can see it, Dave.
Cool. So we're going to talk today about really some building blocks in the automotive repair center of what it takes to build off of. The context of labor is really twofold. The one context of the labor is, this isn't stuff we're making up. This is all vehicle driven. This is all, the vehicle has determined this, the way it was engineered, the way it was designed, the way it's driven, the quality of prior service and repairs that have been done to it, all dictate, in a sense, some level of diagnostic repair and preventative maintenance. The other context of labor as a building block is a context that shops are now really understanding. They might have heard this before, thought that they were getting paid for what they're worth, but really context of labor is a worker is worthy of their wages. And we want to make sure that the late model technicians and shops that are the shops that are putting out an A-level type product, that we're getting paid for what we're worth. And so we're going to divide labor down into 3 different elements. And obviously I only have about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes max here to cover these. We do, a 8-hour workshop just on the diagnostic and preventative maintenance presentations alone. And so there's a lot more that can go into this. So today, hopefully I'm going to shed some light on some things you can look at in your business, how to track what you're doing, and see some benchmarks that are really not industry benchmarks, they're vehicle benchmarks. So everything I talk about today, if you hear me say the word benchmark, that's actually going to be a vehicle derivative in that. So as we start, the reason we address labor is because it's part of our cash flow. It's part of what it is that we're doing. Why we own a business or why we work in the business. We want cash flow. Most of the shops that I know of got a for-profit license, and if you're not making a profit, you actually have an illegal business. I'm just saying. So we want to make sure you're as profitable as possible. So part of, what is a cash flow unit? It's not just a dollar in an auto repair shop, it's called a repair order. And at a certain level, everybody has what's called their point A. Where are we currently at? And if you don't look at it, if you don't go after your metric numbers around your repair order, then it's pretty hard to manage and lead it and coach it and track it and workflow it and market it on all the rest of the things we want to do. So you want to take a good look at where your repair order is at now. And when it comes to labor, where am I at with diagnostics? Where am I at with repair? Where am I at with preventative maintenance? I've been to shops that they feel they do a good job of preventative maintenance. And when we start showing what the vehicle really demands to have done to keep it, 15 years, 250, 300,000 miles, what does a vehicle tell us that it actually needs? So we go after that with preventative maintenance. So there's a point B. So once you find out where you're at, what kind of improvements do you want to make? Is it in the diagnostic arena? Is it repair or preventative maintenance, or is it all of them? And we're going to give you hopefully some insight on how to make some immediate changes in your shop. So it's easy to be profitable. It's a little bit more challenging to build cash flow, because you can make a repair order profitable, but profit is really, if you think about it on a map, it's a destination. Easy to make a repair order profitable, but did you create cash flow? And here's one of the ways that I know that shops are truly interested about cash flow, ongoing cash flow. And I'm going to use a word that may or may not stick a full landing, but residual cash flow. And some of that residual is, are your customers coming back? Yeah, I made the repair order profitable, but did I do it in such a way that they're never coming back? Or did you make it profitable, and did you create a situation where the customer wants to come back? If in my experience, if we're not booking the next appointment, we cut off cash flow. We cut off the next labor and parts event with our customer, and that's our livelihood. And so booking the next appointment, I see a lot of what I call tape scripts and programs or sunglasses viewpoints around booking the next appointment, that it's so hard to do and you get so much pushback from the customer. And yet, if you use some simplistic words to present it to the customer, it's actually fairly simple. And that's part of what we do when we coach and train. But part of managing labor is to make sure, is the labor going to keep coming in the door? Otherwise, we could set up the 3 labor types and we have a good season, but then it ends. And what we want to do is create that ongoing cash flow. So as we look at the labor context, is the workman's worthy of their wages? It's not pride and arrogancy. It's not just because, well, gosh, I'm a technician, I have $75,000 of tools, I've been doing it for 20, 30 years, I deserve to be paid. No, when you produce and you're a decent human being and you're part of a team, that's a little bit different. It's pride and excellence is how a workman is worthy of their wages. And so as we look at the deeper part of that, we're going to do what I call some labor math and 0.3 math. And so as we look at this, it's what I call reduce it to the ridiculous. So why are we dissecting labor apart? Why are we doing all of this? Well, you're going to see here in a minute how small changes will add up. So we're going to do some 3/10 math. So 1/10 equals 6 minutes. 3/10 equals 18 minutes. Okay, pretty simplistic. So the foundation of that, though, is watch how the small becomes big. So if you take 3/10, and it's been my experience when I was in the dealership before I was deep coached on how to be profitable and workflow and efficiencies, when I was truly shown this, I could say this was true then, and it's true for most shops I see. Most technicians are interrupted or have a 0.3 deficiency of workflow, waiting on parts, waiting on upsell, waiting on things, at least minimum 4 times a day. So if you take 0.3 times 4, that's 1.2 hours a day a tech is missing. Well, and I'm not suggesting you should drive your labor rate here, because we can't do that ASA. This is just purely an example, just clarifying that for recording purposes. So that means you have $156 a day of missed opportunity, missed sales. Well, 156 times 3 techs times 253 average working days is 118,404 annual lost sales. So as we look at these things, we want to look at the labor, because small is the new big. 1 or 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths here will really add up in the scope of the year. And too many business owners and techs and managers, they want to make these significant, huge changes. In reality, when they make the small changes, they're going to make the largest changes of all. So it's time this year. It's funny. I've been hearing different things, like 2020 was a year of vision. In 2021, I've been waiting to hear what somebody came up with. And somebody came up with, well, 21 is the age you become an adult. Well, I can't say that that would fit for me, because hopefully I've been an adult a long time. But what I can say is 2021 is the year to go pro. Go pro, go professional with your labor, with your parts, with your marketing, with your leadership, personal development. Go pro in everything you do. Think about the professionals coming up on the Super Bowl here. Their intensity in being professional, their intensity of their training and being a contender to be in the big final game. So if you don't track it, you can't manage it. And I'm just going to say it. If you're not using a time clock, you have not gone pro. If you're not using a time clock, you're missing at least $100,000 to $200,000 a year of unapplied missed times, mismanagement of time. And I had a shop once to say, well, Dave, all this time tracking, it's like you're trying us to be a dealership. And I said, well, think about this. They spend thousands of dollars to put time tracking in place. Why is that? He goes, well, I don't know. Well, let's take a look. What's 0.3 times 4 interruptions times 130? And we start doing some simple math, and he gets the picture. So if you're not using a time clock, you're not really gone fully pro. And the time clock is really a full time clock. Digital inspections have built-in time clocks where the tech can punch on and off of each one of the labor lines, and that's okay. That'll give you some resemblance of some efficiency. It won't give you productivity though. So a full-time clock, and we do coaching and training on how to fully implement that. So to understand the fundamentals of each 3 labor type, we had to have a clear understanding of what productivity is. Productivity means a tech is there 8 hours, but of that 8 hours, how much time is he being productive towards a cash flow unit? And what that means are billable hours. So he could be fixing the garage door that broke and came off the track. Is he productive? Yeah, but is he productive doing our cash flow generating actions, I should say? So that's what productivity is. Efficiency, that's the speed at which the tech gets the billable hours complete. And there's a lot of variables that affect productivity and efficiency. We really encourage shops to have a weekly meeting. Hey, what prevented us from actually working on cars this week? And then number 2 question is, what slowed us down or what made lower efficiencies this week? Because at week to week, it could actually change. So those are some great meetings to have with your team and be open for feedback. So why is it we want to be at 150% efficiency? And some, shop owners, a lot of they kind of know this, but when they see it, it's amazing how much more they go, oh, now I get it. So if you're at 100% efficiency, you're making $130 an hour, period. If your labor rate's 130, again, just a suggestion or an example. If you're at 150%, you made $130 in the first 40 minutes, and now you're working on your next $130 unit. So in reality, you're closer to the 195 range. Livelihood for your shop. When original computers came on, OBD1, OBD2, and now, in our industry, we're still trying to figure out what OBD3 looks like. We don't know, as soon as we come up with something, 2 weeks later, there's new technology that comes. So there's a lot of new technology coming with all the different things that are coming on a car. And that can't be done at 100% efficiency to afford the technology that's coming. So we're going to look at what's called a new model example, but first we got to look at the old model. So a technician, typically for business model, is they're there 8 hours a day. The benchmark industry is 90% that they're actually working on cars, billable hours. So that gives them 7.2 hours a day that they're actually working on cars. And then once they're working on cars, the old efficiency goal was 125%, which means the tech got paid 9 hours a day. The shop collected 9 hours a day. And back in the 50s, 60s, and some of the 70s, that worked good. But with the advent of the high cost of living, the high cost of tools, equipment, training, all the rest of it, 9 hours a day on average from every tech is just not going to cut it. I have some shops now, they would kill to get 9 hours a day because they're so behind in their ability to produce hours in that. And when we get done, we got technicians that are now that were producing 6 hours, 7 hours a day, are now producing 9 to 11 hours a day. So we want to get to a new model, but it's okay. How are we going to do it? Well, just be more productive or have better efficiency. Well, how do we do that? That's why we're going to dissect the labor. So breaking labor down into preventative maintenance, PM labor, and by the way, that's not the labor you do after lunch, and AM labor, it's not that at all. Diag labor is diagnostic, and then repair labor. So we still have our 8 hours. We still have 90% productivity, which still gives us our 7.2. So now as we break this apart, and again, these are really driven from what the vehicle requires. So the volume of preventative maintenance in a shop is 50%. The speed at which, or efficiency of preventative maintenance, is typically done at 150. It doesn't mean it can't be more. Some of them might be a little bit less, but for the most part, you're going to hover right around a 150 range. That's going to become important in a minute. We're going to see how you can systemize it so automatically that you're driving 150% efficiency just from preventative maintenance alone. Diagnostics should be at 25%. And here's where a lot of people are gaining a new understanding. This is really done at 200%. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute, but that's, you've heard the term probably 2 for 1. In some shops, you know, when I first say this, they go, well, I don't know if I believe that. And I go, well, let me ask you this. You got a check engine light on and a guy takes half hour, you estimated an hour. What do you charge the customer? And they said, well, the 1 hour. I said, well, then you're at 2 for 1. You're already there. It's just we want to expand that into all the realms of diagnostics. And then repair, 25% of the volume should be repair. If you're properly doing preventative maintenance, these numbers will actually come into line. It might take a while once you start implementing and being aware of this and driving towards that, but eventually this is the blend that will pan out. And that's typically done at 135%. So I'm going to blast through some math here real quick. So we're going to take our 7.2 times 50% volume of preventative maintenance. That gives us 3.6 hours of preventative maintenance of actual time, physical time, doing that on a daily basis. Diagnostic and repair about the same. So there's our breakdown of our 7.2. And we're going to talk about more of the breakdown of the timing of those particular labors. And then, so if we take the 3.6 volume of preventative maintenance, apply 150% efficiency, that means the tech worked 3.6 and the tech got paid and the shop got paid 5.4. Same with diagnostics, 1.8, and they at 2 for 1, that's 3.6 collected. And so at the end, we have now a methodology, a way, a framework, a thinking, and a way to systemize to get 11.5 to 12 hours a day or more. In this particular example, and this is, in one sense, it's picture perfect, but in one sense, it's not. In our shop at Dave's Auto Repair in Gig Harbor, Washington, we ran 168% efficiency. Truly believed in 2 for 1, a workman's worthy of his wages. Everything we did was moral, ethical. We didn't gouge. We didn't, not put stuff on cars that a lot of the dark side of flat rate got noted in the dealership because of warranty labor that never paid enough. And so, I'm going to do a little bit of a rabbit trail here. I've been hearing in the industry a phrase, and I'm really concerned of our industry because of this phrase. The term is flat rate's dead. And I'm going to suggest if flat rate's dead, our industry is going to have a hard time attracting people. And here, flat rate is just a pay system. It's neither positive, it's neither negative. How you manage it. I've seen just as many unethical people in an hourly shop as I have in a flat rate shop. So it's not the system, it's the people and how you lead it and manage it. It's just a little bit different. That's another whole conversation about incentive plans and that. But here's now a way to break it down so you can drive higher efficiencies. Okay, so the harder business model is this. So the new benchmark for diagnostic was 25%, repair was 25%. That means, think about this, in a perfect world, 50% of the time, we as shop owners, we're waiting for a catastrophic event to happen to Mr. and Mrs. Jones' car before we can do what? Go to the bank, because we don't make any money until we're hanging parts and labor, so to speak. And what I'm seeing in shops when I actually go out there, if they're actually tracking it separately, most shops are getting they're collecting under 12% of their labor is diagnostics. Now, I don't know if you heard what I said there. They're collecting. They're actually doing more, but they're not collecting for it. They're not charging appropriately for it, or they're doing things continued. Most shops that I know of, when you have a customer comes in with a check engine light, let's say you got a stuck EGR valve, you R&R the EGR valve, and you may or may not decarbon it. You may or may not rot out the carbon in it or do a decarbon service. But most shops, until they've gone through our training, they're not doing what's called an ECM relearn. it's more than just clear the codes. You got to put it back in its base mode, mode 6 relearn, and see if there's anything else that was affected by that EGR valve stuck. You didn't validate the repair. Well, the EGR R&R time doesn't include that validation of that. And so what happens though, techs do that. They go in, they clear the codes, mode 6 relearn, they look it up, and they spend another maybe 0.3 to 0.5 all inside of the R&R EGR valve, and we're just lucky we got the job, and so we give that time away. And that scanner that can be $6,000 to $12,000 for that scanner, the training and years of schooling that went in to get to that, the online technical support that it takes to have to understand all of that, it's just to give that time away is just a workman's not worthy of his wages when that happens. The other part of repair is that repair is typically, when I track it, it's over 70%. Some shops it's as high as 85%. And some of that's a little tainted because they don't properly track their diagnostic time. But the repair is roughly averaging 70%. That means we're waiting in this particular business model, we're waiting over 80% of the time to go to the bank. We got to wait till Mr. and Mrs. Jones' car breaks down. Whereas if we do preventative maintenance, it's only 50% of the time we're waiting. And so the remaining is roughly less than 20% of the time are shops really capitalizing on preventative maintenance. And think about this. If 70% of my time I'm going to be doing repair, and that's done at 135% efficiency, if you apply what I'm going to show you here in a minute, if you're not applying it, you're probably closer to 110 to 120. But if you apply 135% efficiency to 70% of your time, you'd be better off to do the 150% and drive up your preventative maintenance, because you're going to produce more hour flow through your shop. Hope you're following that. There's a lot of math there in those numbers. Call me, we can go over what that is. And by the way, these were real averages that I've tracked since, gosh, I've been coaching now for over 15 years. So probably the last 13 or 14 years, I've been tracking these numbers as I started analyzing shops. And these numbers are pretty much average year in and year out. So we're going to track by categories. So Dave, how do I track that? How do I find out the difference between diagnostics, repair, and preventative maintenance? Well, we use your categories, and most softwares will actually allow you to create categories.
What's up?
That's Lee from my shop manager.
Oh, we got some background noise there. So if, let's say we take the system on a car, the engine mechanical part of a car, not the drivability, but the engine mechanical, create a category for diagnostics, create a category for repair, and create a category for preventative maintenance. When you refine your categories this way, you can do a lot of different things. You can actually do some history checks that way. You can actually see how marketing could apply to those. Gosh, we just don't do a lot of diagnostics in this area. I wonder if people even know we do that. Or we don't do a lot of preventative maintenance in this area. I wonder if people know we do that. So the categories are also about marketing. And then do that for every vehicle system. Brakes, exhaust, transmission, steering, suspension. Have the different diag, PM, repair. And when you start analyzing that, you'd be amazed when you look at a category profit summary, and some software has a really good report. Mitchell's one of them that has it. Shopware is another one that has it. Protractor is another one that has it. They have really good reports on how to dissect those apart. Let those reports speak to you. What are these numbers really telling me? Okay, and if you need help with that, that's what we do. So we're going to look at preventative maintenance, only I'm going to call it predictive preventative maintenance. This is another whole subject of, you can predict based on the volume of oil changes, you should know how many transmission services, brake fluid services, power steering services that you should be doing on vehicles. But remember, that's done at 150% efficiency. Okay, Dave, well, how do we create that? Well, let's talk about your preventative maintenance service. So let's say you have a preventative maintenance service and it takes you 0.6 to do, and you bill out 0.6, you're only at 100% efficiency. But you got one of your best techs on it, and he's fast and he moves fast, but he can only ever make 100% efficiency. It's been undersold. If we need if we know that it's 150%, we need 50% more. So if you take the actual time, divide it by 2, that really builds the job at 0.9. And now we build a canned job 0.9, or in CompuTech world, we round up to an hour, as your base rate. And then you add whatever the part is on there, whether it's brake fluid or whatever it is on there. And now whether you're A-level service or your entry-level service advisor are putting that canned job on the repair order, the chances of it going out in the real world environment and coming back at 150% is pretty phenomenal. And another benchmark, it's not on my slide, so if you want to write this down, you can. This is a vehicle requirement. 30% of your repair orders should have 3 or more preventative maintenance labor lines on it. If you put an air filter in it with no labor, doesn't count. It's got to have a labor on there. But think about that. 30% of your repair orders should have 3 or more preventative maintenance labor lines on it to get to that 50% range of preventative maintenance volume. Our tracking system, we go after that. The second example here is a transmission of pan and filter service and a chemical cleaning service. Takes a tech about 1.1 divided by 2, so 0.55, so you want to round up. So now you can go build your canned job for your transmission service. And obviously you can build one for, domestic European and Asian vehicles. And when you do that, you're going to find that you've systemized it so that whoever does that service, 99% of the time, it's going to come back at 150%. Here's what you do on your digital inspections. So let's say you have, well, gosh, that's a normal one, Dave, 1.1, but there's some that take 1.8 to do. Great, build a level 2. Have it on your digital inspections. When you click it, the tech has a chance to select level 1 or level 2. Or knowing level 1 is always a fixed one, just create a level 2, and you know that adds 0.3, 0.5, or whatever it is to the canned job. And so the advisor knows how to properly sell that particular one and present that one. So $440 for a transmission fluid exchange. So I've had some shop owners say, gosh, they're just so expensive. I have a hard time selling them. And I said, well, gosh, 15 years ago at Dave's Auto Repair in Gig Harbor, Washington, small town, we were selling transmission fluid exchanges for over $300. We were like 325 or something like that. And I was at the point looking to get my second machine. We were selling so many of them. So because we never sold a transmission service at a price, we sold the value of it, the reason of it, which is the other way you're going to make these labors work, is that do you have the ability to value express what it is that you're presenting? So we're going to look at repair labor and how do we drive 135%? Well, if the old benchmark was 125, why are we at 135? Because we opened our eyes up and we found out that the labor time guide is just that, it's a guide. And that car is maybe brand new the first couple of years, but by then it's still in warranty. And so you don't see it until after it's maybe 3 to 5 years for actually mechanical repairs or even some electrical repairs. So the labor time guide is just that, a guide. And so the general rule of thumb is a 20% bump. So in this particular chart, if you have a 20% labor multiplier, if the book says 5.7, and most softwares allow you to have a bump in there. Some allow you only to have one, and some allow you to have multiple ones. I know Protractor is got one that does it off of years. We'll talk about in a second here. So at 5.7, it would land at 6.8. And then, like I said, with Protractor and some of the other ones, you can actually put in ranges of cars. Think about this. If that car is 16, 20 years or 21 years or older, parts availability are going to be limited. They're going to push that car in and out. It might be 2 or 3 days. Every time you interrupt a tech, it's 0.2 to 0.3 to get back to the same speed that they were at before they got interrupted. And so if you're able to recoup that time, it's not the technician's fault the parts aren't available. It's not the advisor's fault. For the privilege of Mr. Jones driving his car from point A to point B, we should get paid for what we're worth to work on their car. That's just the viewpoint and context of labor. So hopefully that makes sense. We've got an Excel worksheet that we have for the advisors. They can figure this out if you don't have a multiplier in your computer, or we can help you talk about what it takes to set that up. So diagnostic labor is 200% efficiency, 2 for 1 or more. If you have a master level tech, my European tech at Dave's Auto Repair, this guy was brilliant. I mean, he was really fast. He could diagnose things in 0.3, 0.4 that I felt that was a really good drivability tech, because he actually would diagnose something. I said, don't tell me what's wrong with it. I want to go look at it. And I would take another 1/10 or 2 to be that. Now, if I did applied 2 for 1, he would take a pay cut. So sometimes they did more. If he was in something 0.4, I'm still charging, billing out the hour. in that for the customer. And I say hour, not from a place of I never talk hours to the customer. We use hours for billing, ease of billing, to manage it, to track it, to have some sort of a calculation with it. In reality, most things now are job pricing. It's not really, while there's a breakdown of parts and labor to come up with some sort of a price, it's really not about that. The medical industry does that. A doctor visit for me years ago was $76 an hour. I had to have an MRI. It was there an hour, $3,700. Totally different. It's a high-tech technician, high-tech equipment, the rest of that. But so it wasn't about time anymore. Time in our industry is used for tracking, but it's not necessarily a selling point of how we sell. That's another whole conversation. So diagnostic labor, the way to do that is present your diagnostic in ranges. And there's an art and skill to this. And so when you present to your customer, instead of a hard 130, give a range of 130 to 260. And that way you have some flexibility. If a tech was in at 0.5, charge the hour. If he's in at 0.7, charge 1.5. And then you still have that ability to be within the range. At Dave's Auto Repair, we presented in ranges, and probably 95% of the time or more, it was always under that higher range. Now they're signing for the 260, so make sure you hear that. So on the bottom of your repair order, they're signing for the 260 possibility with a language of we'll call them with what we find on it, or if it needs to go more than that. So the workflow of diagnostic. In a perfect world, this is what you do. You diagnose in the morning, and then you repair in the afternoon. It's kind of like a sine wave. So you diagnose in the morning, repair in the afternoon. And that's part of the reason of that is that a lot of diagnostics, you really want to have the vehicle stone cold. The other part of it is that if you, with the vehicle stone cold, get the customer to drop it off the night before. Use the vehicle for that. When they drop it off the night before, now if you got a delay and a customer no show or didn't come in on time, the technician's not standing around for half an hour, 20 minutes, an hour before they get their first repair order. It's already there, landed in your shop, and you didn't miss that 0.3 or 0.5 of unproductive time waiting for vehicles to work on. Hopefully that made sense. So as we start to wrap it up here, 2020, that's your point A. What you did in 2020 was your point A. We want to get to a stronger point B in 2021. One of the things that we help shops out with is we do a complimentary level 1 shop evaluation. If you email me and in the subject line, put in level 1 shop evaluation, let's have a free conversation around what it would look like to have me take a look at your numbers and present a way that you get to have help in implementing the 3 labor types. So enough of that for me, but so now I want to open it up, Brenda, to questions from the audience around this. And Brenda's on mute.
There, I'm unmuted.
So I got to figure out how to get to my chat so I can see the chats.
Do we have any questions? You can put them in chat, or you can open up your microphone.
It'd be great if you could open up your microphone, because for some reason I can't see how to open the chat when I'm sharing my screen.
I have a question, Dave.
Hey, Leon.
Is it best to use testing procedures rather than diagnostics or diagnosis?
Great question. There was a season for diagnostics, and the season is changing to test, inspect, and diagnose. So it gives more value, because diagnosing could be pop the hood, open it up, and see a crack on a block, and wow, it needs an engine. That's still a diagnose. It's just a visual diagnose. Diagnose has been so underutilized or misused. Some shops will do a code scan. Hey, bring your car down. We offer a free diagnostic. And all they're doing is a code scan. And now they tell the customer, well, now we need to go deeper. Well, wait, you just told me you're going to diagnose it for free. So in a sense, I like expanded verbiage of not just diagnostics or diagnosis. I will say this, and I don't know if we have any outside of the state. In California, they do not like, the Bars Association, they do not like a shop selling diagnostics, because they consider it a product you sold, And they believe that if you told a customer you're going to diagnose it for 130 or 260, you have to completely diagnose it for that, even if you get into it and there's something deeper.
That's exactly what happened in Washington State as well for me. So,
Who was that?
pardon?
Who was that just spoke?
Bob at Silverdale Auto Works.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Yeah, and so you want to say, and there's a whole value expression. Part of this to Leon's and Bob's situation there is the level 1 diagnostics can be the 130 to the 260 range. If it looks like your vehicle needs deeper, if it looks like we need to go deeper, if your vehicle, based on what's wrong with your vehicle, deeper testing and diagnostic needs to be done above and beyond the 260, is it best to call you on your work phone or your cell phone? Does that make sense? That should be some language I apply. Any other questions?
Any other questions? We have one here on that chat, Dave.
Okay.
Says, do you ever charge a higher labor rate for diagnosis versus repair?
Absolutely. And I'm cautious with ASA and our agreement to not talk
Thank
about
you.
labor rates.
Thank you.
There is a calculation formula that we use, and you can talk to me offline, based on your most expensive tech and based on when you're doing diagnostics, you're not moving any parts gross profit, you're actually taking a pay cut by doing diagnostics. There's a way to charge a rate to get workman's worth of his wages, including the shop owner business model is worthy of their wages. And so there's a way to do that where we calculate in your parts GP per hour, your high efficient parts GP per hour. So there's a couple different calculations that we use. Call me offline and let's do a shop evaluation and I can help you calculate what that looks like. That's a long drawn out answer to say yes. I've had like 3 cups of coffee, so I'm on a pretty good verbiage spew here. Ask me now. Everything's free. So ask me the questions now.
I think you shared a lot of good, valuable information, Dave. So I appreciate it very much. And I can highly recommend your level of and style of training. I think it produces results.
Thank you, Leon.
Carl at Kukui says, always great info, Dave. And Mike said, thanks. And Jennifer said, good stuff, Dave. Thanks.
Awesome. One of the other practical tools and solutions that we do have is, I talked about canned jobs. We actually have 800 or 850 canned jobs, and they're set up to help generate that 200% diagnostic efficiency and the 150 preventative maintenance. And it's a package we sell. I know Leon's gotten them and several other shops in ASAs have gotten them, and it's really helped out their average repair order and their profitability. And that's what we really want to do. We want to help people. The purpose you got in this business is to create cash flow and livelihood, because really your business, it's a tool in your hand. And that tool in your hand is designed to help support who it is in your purpose. Giving back to community. I love the Kids First program that ASA does in that, but imagine if you're able to generate another, 200 grand and you're able to give 10% of that to Kids First. First of all, Jeff would get a smile cramp with that, but you're able to give back. So create the cash flow. I believe we were creating the image of a creator. It's our job to create. Let's create some cash flow. Let's give back to society. Let's give back to our communities.
Well, thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have a couple comments before we let y'all go here. But on the paid program, I misspoke. It doesn't start at 9 o'clock. It starts at 7 a.m. our time, and so that'll be the management classes, and the technical classes are in the afternoon. And even if you don't sign up for pay for the training part of it, all of our chat rooms are free. So make sure and go to our ASA or our ASA website. You can go to the PAVE site from there, or go to pavetraining.com and go to chat rooms, and you'll see who's in the chat rooms. So make sure, and there's no charge for the chat rooms, and they'll be right after the morning classes and run for an hour. So make sure and come and visit our sponsors and for PAVE, and they'd really enjoy having you on there. So I want to thank everyone for being on today. Dave, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I
Did a
love
great
being here.
job always.
Thank you,
So
Dave.
we'll you got quite a few people here saying thank you. Good to see you again. Thank you for the information. We do better together. I've signed up for PAVE and looking forward to it. I saw that, Jennifer. Thank you very much. So anyway, everybody have a great day. If you're going to be on the Pierce County meeting tonight, make sure and come on, and Sean Mattingly is going to give us a tax update, and I'm sure we'll be hearing some stuff about the this next round of the PPP program, and then sign up for PAVE, and we'll have a good time during the weekend on the PAVE program. So thanks everyone for being on, and Dave, thank you again.
Yep. Great to be here.
Thanks, Dave and Jeff.
Have a great week.
You too.